Okay, I want to back up a statement that I just said. Shit. Um, speed runs, whether it be NES or Doomslayer or 100% Ultra Nightmare or whatever, have to do a lot with like electrical engineering. Electrical engineering and speedrunning are very, very similar to each other. I wish I had one up here. Yeah, the history of, well, we'll try something a little bit better here. Yeah, I like Punch-Out. We did the video on this one, and we had it. Been using it as context inside of here.
Best price guarantee, which means
to defeat Mike Tyson / Mr.
Tat,
Dream with
Tat, the Turk,
my eyes closed
Turk, right?
is a dream, I suppose. So
take him down with the help of star punches. Just
this
as
is
with
blindfolded.
It took
Punch-Out,
Sinister
that's
3
fine.
knockdowns to defeat Von
In the
Kaiser.
way that you would do
In
it blindfold, because
3
it
knockdowns
leads
in
to
a
a
single round
result
signifies a
faster
TKO and a
than
worthy
trying to
victory.
do some variable.
Sometimes
You can
beat
do it
your
that
opponent
way.
sooner by having
And
Mario
that's the
count all the way to 10
engineering,
after knocking your opponent
changing
down,
out an
meaning he's
LED or a
knocked out.
resistor capacitor,
Alternatively,
holding
you
a
can beat your
frame,
opponent by
like you
decision
want to
after
hold a
3
frame
rounds of
inside
boxing
here.
without a victor.
Well, what does
If
this
you
look
get
like
enough
with
points,
circuitry?
which are earned from punching
You
your
know,
opponent
we know we
repeatedly,
wanted to
you
do
can
a
be awarded
thing,
the victory.
9 volts
But of
pumping
course,
through,
if you get knocked down
and
enough times,
there might be subtle
you're gonna be
differences
unable to
between
get
the
up
LED,
and
the
lose the match.
capacitor, and things like
Fight
that.
number
You're like,
3,
wow,
Piston Honda,
I
was
need
significantly
a
tougher than the
resistor,
first two.
and that resistor's going to
His
look like
patterns
space
are
time. It's going to
extremely
be like
random,
maybe
and
hold
his
a
punches
frame,
deal a ton of
maybe be
damage.
frame perfect
Almost
on
whenever he
the
wants to,
train here.
Piston Honda can duck
Because
down
if
and
he
throw an
does
uppercut.
something and it lasts
This is
exactly
random,
so
and
many
since you couldn't
frames,
see it coming,
then
Sinister
you
usually had
can
no option
reset
but to
that
take
frame
this
clock
punch
so
when it
none
came
of
out.
those things happen.
He was still able to sneak in a few
And
punches
you
to
won't
get
have
stars,
any of the fuzz
but
or the
Honda snuck in his
feedback
fair share of punches
problems
too.
or EM waves,
After a round and a half
temperature
of trading
index
knockdowns back and
issues,
forth,
thing
Sinister
not
was
lasting
finally
as
able
long
to
as
get
it
a
should. It just
10-count
fuzzles.
knockout
It
to
works for a
Piston
second
Honda.
and then fuzzles out. Kind of in there for a little bit. And then...
The fourth fight, Don Flamenco,
So,
was quite a bit easier.
For
Alternating
about
left and right
8,
punches.
its units, and we already put one number that I really wish you will remember. Now let's talk about the units of H and some other things you can do with H. So, units of H.
and if you know the line of code you're dealing with here,
So
boy,
if
you
have
run
a
through this at
quantity
causal.
that appears for the first time, and as it appears here,
Which is usually the problem, because you're not putting
E
anything down on the
equal
graphics.
H nu.
I
This
have
is
no
a good
reason to
place
fix the
to
remote.
understand the units
Do
of
the
H,
task-assisted
because the
multimeter.
units of
I look
H
for smoke.
would be
IH,
units
look for
of
little fuzzles in there,
energy
and I go, well, that's probably the problem.
divided by units of frequency.
You can task assist
And I
this
put,
by
this square brackets
different
to
models.
denote
YF over
units.
X. Well, it doesn't work. It's got fire
Now,
on
what are
it.
the
That's
units
where the
of
X is.
energy?
That's
We're gonna
100%
work
where the
with
problem
units
is.
that are
If I'm having
characterized by
problems with
M,
this line
L,
right here,
and T,
and that's where that's
mass,
going.
length,
I'm
and
worried
time.
about a
So,
time window
energy
right
is
there.
in kinetic energy,
Math
and
is a
you
fist
say
fight.
mV squared.
Punch
so
out.
that's a
Mike
mass,
Tyson's
and
punch out here.
velocity squared is L squared
Contra.
over
Contra world
T
record
squared.
speedrun.
So that's units of energy.
So you got to have your mashing skills
Frequency
down.
is cycles per unit time. Cycles have never units, so it's 1 over time here. So then you say that it's M L
So basically,
squared
instead
over
of the
T.
the 10 sprite limit
So
you got
that's the
inside your
first
Contra, you can
answer,
come in
and,
here with that mash and wait
that's a
for one
nice
glitch to have
answer,
9 on
although
there,
it's
so you get an
never
extra
quite
sprite frame on there. And
that
if you do that, it
useful
won't
in
be
this
just a
way.
pulse wave. It
So
would
we
be a
try
laser
to
beam.
rearrange it.
Or
And
bullets
I will
AR-15.
rearrange
And
it the following
it might as
way.
well be laser
To
laser
think-
beam.
You see, it's nice
I
to
have a
think
dream.
of what physical quantity
MLT,
that we
yes.
are familiar has units of H bar. We've noticed units of H bar are energy over frequency, but that's not a single physical
Like
quantity.
what Tyson did
let's
to be
look
so
at it
big back in
and
the day.
separate this as L.
You wouldn't notice it
times
with his voice or the way Don King took
LT.
care of him and stuff like that, but
That's
what
the
he
same thing.
probably was
And then
very
I
good
see an
with
interesting
inside
thing.
here was registering
This is
little
the
glitches,
units
little
of
frame rates on
position
seconds of time in and stuff like
or
that. And that's why
length,
one of these things about this is the wave function of the
radius.
global clock of the you start the game, then maybe you got to play
And
like
this has the units
um
of momentum.
you got to lose to one of them or something, so that way when it makes you come back and do it, the global clock
So this
is different than that
product has
local
the
clock.
units of
Same thing as like with
angular
Mario too. And you do
momentum.
that, you get with this Olif 0, Olif 1 thing going on. And it makes a
And
difference in
perhaps
this
that's the
first
most
level, the
important,
sprite generation at the
quantity
last
that has the
level
units
of
of each bar.
Castlevania,
It's
you know,
something
with the
that you
Dracula or
should
something, but it
remember.
might not augment all of them, right?
Each
Every once in a while you'll
bar
get this
has
random
units of
sprite
angular
generation, you
momentum.
can't figure
That's
out what's
why
going
when
on, right?
people
So it has a
talk
lot to do with that
about
global clock and
particle of
local
spin
clock
1/2,
dealing with corruption on the ROM
they
disk.
say
It's not
that
exactly what you
angular
would
momentum
assume to be
is
corruption.
1/2
There
of
it's just
each
wave
bar.
functions
And that
adding
has
up
the
over
right
each other
units.
on that clock to say, well,
So
that sprite
spin
has
1/2 particle,
a little NP where it wants to jump into the ones and zeros, right? Because what is frame rate? What is frame rate?
means
You
that
get in
the
here and you want the Arduino or the
intrinsic
Switch to get in
angular
there
momentum
inside
is
of that frame
1/2
without
of
jumping it or
each
causing
bar.
it to
Each or each bar
stretch
have
out
the
and get
same
all
units,
messy
they just differ
in the
by
engineering.
a
Well, this works a lot of
2 pi.
ways too, as
Unfortunately, we have to be careful
your
about
programmer,
that
right?
2 pi,
Because
the fixed
basically we're saying, well, the
numbers,
task assisted here
some
isn't
formulas
just
are
this to
nicer
go to
without
some
the
screen and do this. We're
bars, some
actually
formulas are
doing
less
some
nice.
kind of
So,
YF over X.
So another thing that you could say is that
Well, let's look at it. We have,
this
you know,
age
bring application to
allows
the
you
table.
construct
That's a hack. That's
all
a way to
kinds of,
program
new quantities.
that A
And that's
brack
a nice thing to do.
in
Whenever
terms
you have a
of
new
why it
concept of
correlates
nature that
to
comes up,
going
we
back
have
to the CPU,
speed
picking
of
up
light,
information,
Planck's
taking it
constant,
from here,
Newton's
DI,
constant seem to be
turning the
three
speed into a
fundamental units of
photon, and then
nature.
saying the spin output is actually this
You
here
can do
by
some things,
vector
and you
positions
can
of the
look
cosmic
at
radiation
this,
back line, around on a
quantity.
line.
H
Combinations,
is
does the
proportional
tightest
to
index up, down,
RP,
left, right, spin,
and
chart.
get an
Now it looks like they're
inspiration.
mashing.
So you can think
The
H
hydrogen.
has
You ever look at
units
boiled
of
water? The sun?
R times
It's
P.
hydrogen down there. It's all
And you can say,
hydrogen
look,
and oxygen
if I
atoms
have
before
any
the surface.
particle
There's little bubbles
with
coming up,
mass
right?
M,
Let's look at the sun.
I
It's all
can
dynamics,
now
all just
associate
energy
a
and crap
length
like
to
that,
it.
and maybe there's some wave function
I
indexes
can
that
invent a
allow the
length
IH differential,
associated
but
to
it's
that
all hot
particle.
gas. You know, it's not
And how do I
coronal
do it?
sphere and then out. It's
Well, this has units
well,
of length, so all I have to do
well,
is take
the dynamics
H
of the atmosphere
and
are
divide by
on the sun
P.
or Earth. What do you mean? Jupiter's, or
Well,
excuse me,
that
yeah,
will be
Saturn's
one
Planck
way
ring
to get
tells
the
the
length.
geology on this.
Where
These
P
kinds
is the
of
momentum. It
frames,
will be called the de Broglie wavelength.
the Broglie wavelength.
But
or
there's
whatever.
another
You can say
way.
it's mine.
Suppose this
I'm not gonna
particle is
argue.
just not moving, and you have the momentum, and you say, "Wow, momentum is not
Gresham's
moving.
law.
So what's
Bell's
going
equality.
on here?" So
No, this works. You're just gonna come into my class with a bunch of
think of
hillbillies.
it
You're not
at
gonna make it,
rest,
kid.
and then you say, "Well, you still can construct the length. You can put H and
Over X.
divide by the mass
Ah, damn it, I was
times the
mass
velocity
is
of
X, so
light.
technically
Why
I'm
not?
right.
That's a velocity that is a constant of nature.
Task
so
assisted.
That way,
You know, instead of figuring
you
out X here, you know,
associate
we need mass, right?
a length
and I don't have mass. We gotta
to
figure it out.
any
Task
particle.
assisted.